The movie Oculus, not to be confused with this thing, is a psychological horror about a troubled family and a strange mirror. The object in question is thought to be a malicious, supernatural entity that drives its victims insane. It's a sort of film that keeps you guessing throughout, asking yourself what's real and what isn't. The premise is simple. Two siblings revisit their childhood home, where they confront their darkest memories, all of which seem to centre around the laser glass. Both struggle to keep their grasp on reality in spite of the horror unfolding around them. One of them is convinced that the mirror is evil and is determined to prove this before having it destroyed. So, what exactly is the laser glass? What does it do to its victims? And how, if possible, can it be killed? Before we start, there will be spoilers, so I highly recommend that you watch the film before continuing. Mirrors are often considered to be cursed objects. Breaking one means 7 years bad luck. Games of Bloody Mary have terrified sleepovers for generations. Seeing a mirror image of yourself, known as a doppelganger, is said to be an evil omen. These commonplace items and their properties have been used time and time again to explore themes of obsession, superstition, fear, and madness. It's no surprise that mirrors have already made several appearances in the horror genre. They've appeared as haunted artefacts, portals to dark dimensions, or sometimes to show that the most terrifying thing in the world is yourself. And how many times have you seen this? Person in bathroom, looks in the mirror, looks away, and bam, right behind them. By this point, it's more shocking when there's nothing there. With that in mind, let's look at the laser glass. I mean, what's the worst that could happen when you look at the... Oh, okay. That's pretty horrible. These are some of the mirror's victims, identified by Kaylee Russell. 11 years ago, following weeks of disturbing behaviour, Kaylee's mother was tortured and killed by her father. He, in turn, was shot dead by Kaylee's 10-year-old brother, Tim. Tim has grown up in a mental institution where he's been working through his trauma and accepted the psychiatrist's version of events. Kaylee, however, remains convinced that the laser glass, which was in their home at the time, was somehow responsible. This is where it gets interesting. Both characters take a rational, evidence-based approach, but arrive at different conclusions. Kaylee digs deep into the mirror's history, spotting patterns that can't be coincidence. The accounts she reads are consistent with her parents' behaviour prior to their deaths. Tim, on the other hand, has accepted a medical explanation that his parents were mentally ill and that his own memories must be false. Kaylee thinks Tim is delusional, while Tim thinks the same about her. And, as it's fiction, whoever is right or wrong depends on how you read the film. If Tim is correct, and it's only a mirror, we're watching two people suffering violent hallucinations and collective hysteria. For the purposes of this video, we're sticking with Kaylee's theory, that the mirror is, for want of a better term, haunted. The laser glass is said to be responsible for the following events: starvation, dehydration, self-injury, hemorrhage, psychosis, homicide, and suicide, often through extremely violent means. It's also believed to disrupt power supplies, intercept phone calls, kill plant life, and devour animals whole. But that's not all. Manifestations of former victims appear inside the glass, which once prompted a church investigation. In the film, we see apparitions reaching out of the frame and walking around the house. They may present as intact, unharmed versions of the deceased, or as walking corpses bearing the wounds that killed them. Often, they have mirrors in place of eyes. The film hints at some additional supernatural powers the mirror may possess. Let's explore these one at a time. The laser glass can predict the future. When Kaylee sees the mirror in storage, it shows 3 large objects covered with sheets, reminiscent of death shrouds. She removes the first 2, revealing statues of a man and a woman, but is interrupted before she can unveil the third. What was under that last sheet? It's implied that the third shroud is for Kaylee, who will shortly end up in a body bag. Either that or this thing's been stalking her again. It's not the only time this happens. During an early encounter, their father Alan gets a red stain on his chest, the exact same place where he will later be shot. Then there's the dream at the beginning of the film, where Tim murders Kaylee in their childhood home. True, the laser glass isn't present when the dream occurs, however, Tim still has a strong connection to it, and little does he know, it's drawing closer all the time. While this could simply be foreshadowing on the part of the filmmakers, it could be the mirror's uncanny way of marking its victims and predicting their fate. The laser glass can read and control minds. The mirror uses all manner of tricks to lure its victims. Alan is seduced by one of its apparitions. His wife Marie sees her physical insecurities brought to life as her scar ruptures and bleeds. Kaylee sees her deceased mother, alive and well, reaching out to hold her. Could the mirror be reading the desires and anxieties of those around it? Or maybe it's the mirror of Erised and we were in Hogwarts all along. Even if the mirror has no telepathic abilities, something must be manipulating the victims. They show sudden, drastic changes of personality, as if they've been possessed. They believe they're in one place while they're in another. Anyone who considers smashing the glass will inevitably miss or change their mind at the last second. Is the mirror exercising mind control? Or is it something on the other side? The laser glass is a portal to another dimension. Maybe the mirror isn't sentient. Maybe it acts as a gateway. Maybe to look into the glass is to catch a glimpse of the other side, the unknown, which shortly drives that person to madness. Yes, we can go full Lovecraft on this one. So if the mirror is a portal, where does it lead? It could be hell or purgatory, breaking down the barrier between the living and the dead. That would explain the apparitions. Either they're spirits, crossing over, seeking others to join them, or they're demons, who assume these forms in order to feed off the living. Another theory is that the mirror provides a link between alternate realities. Take this scene for example. Tim walks out of the house, only to find himself indoors moments later, assured that he never left. Was it a hallucination? Or did Tim briefly experience a different reality? The laser glass controls time. Given how some of its victims died, the mirror may be disrupting the passage of time, or at least a person's perception of it. What feels like minutes in the room with the laser glass may be days or even weeks in real life. Once time catches up, the effects of hunger, thirst or insomnia immediately take their toll on the victim's mind and body. It's also possible that the mirror shifts between time periods and uses this power against the victims. As their will is tested, Tim and Kaylee switch between child and adult versions of themselves. Sometimes both exist in the same room. The past and present, in all their numerous iterations, occur simultaneously, bleeding into each other as the mirror wills it. With that in mind, let's take a look at the final showdown. Though they occupy the same space, Kaylee is in the past while Tim is in the present. The mirror draws young Kaylee towards itself, using the vision of her mother. Meanwhile, it drives the adult Tim wild with rage and fear, till his mind snaps and he decides to put an end to the madness. As Tim triggers the kill switch, the two realities collide, resulting in Kaylee's death and the mirror's continued survival. It's as if it was waiting for this moment all along. Remember also that the film's title, Oculus, comes from the Latin for eye. In other words, the mirror is always watching. So now we reach the big question. Can the laser glass be killed? We know it can defend itself, but we've also seen that it can be damaged. As we know, anyone who tries to deliberately break the mirror will either miss or decide to stop, usually for good reason. Tim says he'd just be feeding into his sister's delusions. Kaylee wants to clear her father's name, and must keep the mirror alive long enough to expose its power. Are these motivations genuine, or is it the laser glass, feeding into their minds and buying itself time? On occasion, the mirror is forced to act on the spot. One person, a teacher named Oliver Jeffries, reportedly went to smash it, but stopped before walking out of the building and into oncoming traffic. Something like this could have happened for a number of reasons. With no time to invent a convincing motive, the mirror might instead issue a powerful subconscious command: kill yourself. Alternatively, it might use the person's body like a puppet in order to dispose of them quickly. Or perhaps it shows a vision so terrible, so incomprehensible, that it will instantly drive a person to madness. However it works, it's able to neutralise the threat and at the same time claim another victim. So if breaking it yourself is out of the question, could someone else do the job? By this we mean someone with no prior knowledge of the mirror's history or nature, who has been coerced, bribed, or asked really nicely to destroy the glass for us. Also, someone who didn't think we were crazy for asking. Here's the problem: the laser glass is a cunning enemy that never reveals its hand. We don't know exactly how it assumes control, so we don't know what safety measures would need to be taken. It might need eye contact, in which case the person would have to break the mirror without looking at it. Already you can picture all the things that could go wrong with a blindfold and a weapon. It might use some form of subaudible or telepathic communication, in which case more precautions are required. What though? Ear protection? Loud background noise? Tinfoil hat? The danger might lie within a certain radius, in which case the mirror must be broken from a safe distance. How far? Who knows? I know what you're thinking. Didn't the mirror indicate a very precise area of influence? Well, that's what it wants us to think. If we start feeling safe because we've figured out its limitations, we think we've beaten it. We become overconfident. That's when we're more likely to make a mistake, and of course, the mirror will punish us harshly. By hinting at its lack of power in certain scenarios, the laser glass provides a false sense of security. It makes the rules, only to break them when we least expect it. The third option is to set up a contraption that requires no human operator. Keeley tries this with a homemade kill switch, but it doesn't exactly go to plan. Can it be made foolproof? I'd say probably not. Any witness, human or camera, can be corrupted, seeing only what the mirror wants them to see. You could set up a trap, run away and hope for the best, but don't be surprised if you suddenly find yourself right back where you started, or develop a sudden, inescapable urge to return. If intervention is at all possible, the mirror will do anything to make that happen. It could force someone to disable the contraption, move the mirror, or stand in the way. But what if you design something unstoppable, something that will guarantee destruction once set in motion? Chances are, something would still go wrong, either by a mistake made during the setup or in the execution. And you don't want to be around that contraption when it fails. Remember, anything designed to damage a large object is capable of damaging you. This leaves us with one loose end, the crack in the mirror. If the laser glass can be damaged, that means it can be destroyed, right? Well, not necessarily. I've seen a number of people comment on how the weight and force of Alan's body broke the glass, and Kaylee's, which hit bang in the centre, did not. Well, there might be a reason. The damage happened because the mirror allowed it to happen. It wanted Tim and Kaylee to see the crack before they were taken away. Why? Because it made them think that they stood a chance of killing it, compelling Kaylee, as an adult, to seek it out and finish the job. But of course, she was probably doomed from the start. By feigning injury, the laser glass appears weak, convincing the target that they have the upper hand. What an excellent trick for a predator. Chances are, it isn't really damaged at all, or it has the power to repair itself. If it's a supernatural entity, anything's possible. And who's to say that smashing the glass will kill its evil force? Every fragment might carry the same curse, or its spirit could transfer to another vessel, maybe into another mirror, maybe into you. So, even if you did destroy the laser glass, you might never be able to look at your reflection ever again. Thanks for listening. Also, big thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to my Babadook video, and a special thanks to everyone who liked and shared. The response was fantastic, I really didn't expect it, and it's encouraged me to make more of these. If you have any suggestions for future topics, please leave me a comment, I do read them. And I've already started working the next video, which looks at one of my all-time favourites, so I'm really looking forward to that one. Please hit subscribe if you want to hear more, and I'll see you on the other side.